In this video, I'm going to be talking about some basic concepts in regard to nutrition. Now, if you have never been to a Nutrition 101 here in the office, I would highly encourage you to come to the office if possible for Nutrition 101. I go over a lot more in depth some of the concepts I'm about to discuss, talk a little bit more about physiology, meaning how the body works and why I make some of the recommendations that I do or that I'm about to make. So highly encourage you to come to Nutrition 101. I do those workshops generally once a month to once every other month. If you've already been to a Nutrition 101, I would encourage you to come to more Nutrition 101s because I'm learning new things, or maybe I forget to mention something, but you can always learn more and continue to incorporate proper nutrition to be able to live the longest, healthiest life that you can, which at the end of the day is really what I want for my patients. So in this short video, I'm going to be talking about some of the basic things that most people who eat what we call the standard American diet, which I think very fittingly the acronym for that is SAD, S-A-D, the standard American diet. Some tips for most people who eat that diet that they can do to benefit their health overall. I'm going to be talking about four key concepts, and I'm going to be talking about those in order of what I believe to be the most important change that most people can make in regards to their diet, to potentially not the least important, I don't want to put it that way, but in order of which things to change at what rate. Now, I really want to emphasize anytime I'm talking about nutrition, or I'm talking about detoxification, or I'm talking about exercise, or I'm talking about any of these lifestyle decisions or factors that impact our health in such a huge way. Anytime I'm talking about these things, I'm not talking about them from a standpoint of do this, eat this, take this to treat this, to help with this. That philosophy or that mentality is what we call allopathy. Now, allopathy medicine is based off of the philosophy or the principle of allopathy, which means I have said problem, condition, and I need help with that, so I need to do something or take something for that condition. When I'm discussing, and there is a time and a place for that, of course, but whenever I'm approaching these topics, I'm coming from more of a position of what we call vitalism. And what that means is that the body innately knows how to heal and it knows how to function very well. Whenever we give our body what it needs and we remove what it doesn't need, the body's going to do a very good job at functioning at a very high level. It's going to be incredibly healthy. So when I'm talking about nutrition, it's not for a treatment of obesity or heart disease or cancer or autoimmune issues or diabetes. However, I will say that if we have a good diet that is congruent with the way that we're made and the way we're designed, that's going to help our body to function well, maintaining a good or a healthy body image, or lowering the chances of heart disease, cancer, diabetes, autoimmune issues, etc., that's going to happen. Because those things happen whenever there is abnormal state of function within the body. And our goal with everything we do from a health perspective should be to allow our body to function at its God-given potential, and health is going to be a consequence of that. So there's a quote that I really love, and this quote is from Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison said, "The doctor of the future will give no medication, but will interest his patients in the care of the human frame, diet, and in the cause and prevention of disease." And really, that's what I'm talking about, right? This is vitalism. So as a chiropractor, of course, we're caring for the frame, the human frame. That's really my interest, is to take care of the pelvis, the spine, the frame of the body, but in educating about diet. And this is what is appropriate for the body, and in the prevention, the cause and prevention of disease. There's always a cause to any health problem that we have. There's always a cause. And if we can find the cause and address that underlying issue, correct it, the body's going to be able to heal appropriately to its greatest potential. Same thing with disease. We find the cause of that disease. Now, hopefully what we can do is actually understand on the front end. There's a cause, many causes, of the top causes of death in our country, heart disease. There's many causes, but if we understand what those causes are, we know how to avoid going down that road. There's many causes of cancer, and a lot of it, the majority of cancer is lifestyle. That turns on cancer genes. So if we know what the cause is, we can do our best to avoid those things, prevent going down that road in the first place. My mother died from cancer. My father has had 4 heart attacks in his lifetime. So our goal is to understand what caused those things so that we, I have those genes, those are my genes, but I live a very different lifestyle than my parents did and then their parents did. And that's going to set me off on a different trajectory in my future. So let's get into talking about nutrition. What are the top things that most people can do to overall benefit your health long term? The number one thing that most people in our society can do from a nutritional perspective to improve their health, improve their quality of life long term is to cut out, or not to cut out completely, but to decrease carbohydrate load, carbohydrates. And I put sugar here in parentheses because those terms are interchangeable. Carbs are sugar. Carbohydrates turn into sugar, and they have the same effect. So eating a piece of whole wheat bread has the same effects on your body, maybe just a different time perspective, but the same effects as eating white table sugar. Just takes a different amount of time for it to have those effects. But eating carbohydrates. Now, what are carbohydrates? A lot of people think of breads, pastas, potatoes, rice. All of those, yes, those are carbohydrates. But then you also have sugar. So fruit, just table sugar, honey, maple syrup, soft drinks. All of these things are sugar. They're all carbohydrates. Carbohydrates, from a nutritional perspective, is the number one cause of the most preventable diseases that we have, or that we're plagued by in industrialized worlds, in the United States in particular. And those are going to be heart diseases, cancer, autoimmune issues, dementia, Alzheimer's, and diabetes and obesity. The number one contributing factor from a nutritional perspective of all of these things are carbohydrates, are a large amount of carbohydrates. Now, there's a lot of diets that are out there when it comes to decreasing, or in regards to decreasing carbohydrates. The Atkins diet used to be a very popular one. A low-carb paleo diet is still pretty popular. A keto diet, a ketogenic diet is very popular. There is a lot of merit with these diets. Now, I will in particular say ketogenic. If somebody did suffer, they were suffering from one of those preventable diseases, if they were to, in a very controlled way, and they really understood what they were doing and how to eat a ketogenic diet, if they were to go on a ketogenic diet, the chances of them reversing any one of those diseases are going to be much greater than if they were to try other nutritional approaches. So there's a lot of merit to doing that. And again, I'm not going to go into a lot of the physiology as to how does sugar cause those things right now. Come to Nutrition 101 and I do talk about that a little bit. So what we want to do is substitute, right? I'm not a fan of just get rid of everything that you enjoy. And it may sound like that, but it's find substitutions, because the goal is not to make temporary changes, it's to make permanent changes. It's not to be healthy temporarily, it's to be healthy forever. So we want to try to find substitutions. So for example, when it comes to the grains, really getting rid of grains, if you were able to if there was one change, a single change that you made for your nutrition, if you just got rid of grains, your health would improve dramatically. dramatically. Getting rid of grains, let's say bread, as an example. If we want to get rid of bread and make substitutions, we can do things like wraps, using a lettuce wrap, or you can go to the grocery store and buy a coconut wrap or an almond flour wrap. There's a lot of great substitutions for bread, so that you can still, pick up a sandwich or have something comparable to be able to eat and get the same satisfaction of that. If you were still, you just had to eat your bread, there's a great company called Ezekiel. The Ezekiel products you can buy in most grocery stores, especially health food stores, but they make a bread, Ezekiel Bread. It's much less damaging to your body than buying conventional bread on the grocery store shelf that lasts for a long time. Ezekiel Bread is actually in the frozen section because it doesn't have all the preservatives and some of the other unhealthy ingredients that regular bread does. But it's made from ancient grains, which I'm not going to get a lot into, but it's not as damaging to the body. Go on to pasta. Substitutions for pastas. You can use spaghetti squash. You can get something called a spiralator, and you can make your own noodles using zucchini or certain other foods. And you can cook those and put, whatever. When it comes to things like pasta, a lot of times people think, it's hard to get rid of the pasta, but it's what you put on top of it that's really what you enjoy, not the pasta itself. You may like the texture of the pasta, but it's what you put onto it that you enjoy. So still make those things, the sauce or the meat, and of course try to use good ingredients, and put it on top of a substitution instead. Now, when it comes to things like fruit is very good for you, of course. Lots of great nutrients, minerals, vitamins in fruit. Fruit is sugar, so you don't want to have too much fruit. I generally recommend 1 to 2 servings of fruit per day. Now, there are certain fruits that you can eat liberally, kind of eat as much as you want and not really worry about it from a sugar load. And those are going to be Granny Smith apples, berries, grapefruit, lemons, and limes. You can pretty much do as much as you want of those and not worry too much about it. I will say you want to really go towards, especially with berries, going towards buying them organic. I'm going to get into that just a little bit later. Now, I also want to mention, since we're talking about decreasing sugar, sometimes our mind goes from, okay, so instead of doing the normal, right, getting a normal Coke as an example, I'm going to get the Diet Coke. And I would strongly urge you not to do that. I would actually rather someone have a regular soft drink Coke than a Diet Coke. The reason being is that artificial sweeteners are very damaging to the body. They are known carcinogens. So I would say avoid artificial sweeteners at all costs. And again, there's always substitutions. Let's say take soft drinks as an example. I grew up drinking a lot of soda. Again, I grew up doing things that I wouldn't recommend, but I grew up like that. And occasionally I like to have a soft drink. In particular, I love root beer. There's a company called Zevia, Z-E-V-I-A, and they make soft drinks that use stevia, which is a natural 0-calorie sweetener. It's a leaf. They use stevia to sweeten their soft drinks. So it's not sugar and it's not artificial, it's natural. And it's nice to have as a treat every now and then. So trying to find those substitutes is going to be key to being able to change your diet, but being able to stick with it long term. Right? So number one thing that you can do to improve your health overall, yes, it will help with all of those conditions, decreasing weight. I'm just going to talk about this one in particular because a lot of people, when we talk about nutrition, they have a goal in mind, and a lot of times it is healthy weight. So a lot of people have a misperception that eating a high-fat diet or eating fat causes weight gain. That's not true. It's never been true. Bad science has led to that conclusion. Eating carbohydrates causes weight gain. That's what causes it, because whenever you eat a carbohydrate, your body releases a hormone called insulin. The purpose of insulin is to get blood out of or to get sugar out of your blood and to be able to store it, because too much sugar in your bloodstream is very damaging, which is how it causes cardiovascular disease and some of these other problems. So your body wants to get it out of the blood, and it puts it and stores it in the fat cells. The only way for you to store things in the fat cells, meaning the fat cells get larger, the only way for that to happen is by your body releasing insulin, right? And the only way your body releases insulin is if you eat a high amount of carbohydrates. Also, potentially, if you eat a lot of proteins, if you were to cut out the carbs, cut out fats, eat a lot of proteins, your body will release insulin as well. But the major way is by eating too many carbohydrates. So we want to cut out or cut down on the carbohydrate load. Second thing that most people can do to improve their overall health when it comes to nutrition is to fix their fats. You can tell I like alliteration. Curb the carbs, fix the fats, and you'll see some more alliteration as we go. Fats are very good for you. We need fats. Fats should, for most people, unless you have some sort of liver issue or a gallbladder issue, fats should be comprised, or the majority of your caloric intake should be comprised of fats. You just want to fix the fats. You want to have good fats, not bad fats, because bad fats have deleterious effects on your health. In particular, along with sugar, they cause inflammation. So we want to eat the right fats, not the wrong fats. So what are the wrong fats? The number one, the most damaging fat that most people eat in large quantities, whether they know it or not, are going to be bad oils. Bad oils. Now, what are bad oils? Vegetable oil, right? You can buy the container of vegetable oil, which is not made from vegetables, it's made from grains. Canola oil, soybean oil, cottonseed oil, peanut oil, sunflower oil, safflower oil. All of these oils are very, very, very inflammatory. They do a lot of damage inside of your body. They cause a lot of oxidative stress, something called advanced glycation end products, or AGEs, which literally makes you age quicker. It'll make your skin and your connective tissue age quicker. So there's a lot of damaging effects of bad fats. So we want to try to avoid eating those bad fats. Now, a lot of times they're in you may not even use it to cook with, but they're in processed foods. So you want to avoid processed foods at all costs. I like to say that the perimeter of the grocery store generally is where you want to try to stick to, not going down the aisles as much as possible. So avoiding those roasted nuts and seeds. The oils in those can also go very bad, or can go bad whenever they're heated. So you want to avoid that as well. Eating raw nuts and seeds is going to be much better for you. So if you want to, if you're going to avoid those oils that I just mentioned, what can you use, let's say, to cook with? Saturated fats are your best option for cooking. And I know that you may think, what do you, saturated fat? I thought saturated fats were bad. No. It's not true. Saturated fats are not bad. In fact, we have to have saturated fat. The majority of our hormones in our body, our cholesterol in our body, is made from saturated fat. We need saturated fat for proper health, proper hormone, proper neurologic integrity. Of course, there's good saturated fats and there's not good saturated fats. In particular, trans fats are saturated fats, but they're man-made, so to speak, saturated fats. Things like margarine are trans fats. It's where they take a fat or an oil, usually, that's liquid at room temperature, and they change the molecular composition of it so that it's solid at room temperature, and that helps preserve the shelf life of it. That's very, very damaging to the body. But if you're getting natural saturated fats from good quality sources, very key, good quality sources, not only is it not going to be harmful for you, but it's actually going to be beneficial for your health. So what are saturated fats that we can have? Coconut oil is amazing. You can use coconut oil for, I love to say it's like a panacea. You can use it for everything. You can use it for your skin, to hydrate your skin as a moisturizer. You can use it to cook with, great for cooking. I've even used coconut oil on on hinges in my house to stop the squeaking, and it worked great. So coconut oil is wonderful. You can use butter. Butter, if it comes from a good source, a grass-fed animal source, cow, is going to be a health food. So there's a company, a great company called Kerrygold. You can buy Kerrygold butter, Kerrygold cheeses in a lot of different grocery stores in Costco. You can buy it in bulk. So you can find a lot of these healthy foods or alternatives just about anywhere. What else can we cook with? Avocado oil. I love avocado oil. So avocado oil has a very high smoke point, so it's safe to cook with, but it is a liquid at room temperature, so it's easy to store. It doesn't have a lot of flavor or taste, which is great so that it's not changing the flavor of your food, let's say, as compared to coconut oil, which you're gonna be able to taste that in your food. Now, I also want to mention, a good oil, but you don't want to cook with it, would be olive oil. So don't listen to Rachel Ray and cook everything in your EVOO, your extra virgin olive oil. It's a great oil, has a lot of healthy properties to it, but it's not good for cooking because it has a very low smoke point, which damages the oil, which can cause problems inside of your body. So what are some other good healthy fats? Eating good source animal products. So if you do eat animal products, so high fat fish, sardines, mackerel, anchovies, things of that sort. Salmon, you don't want to eat too much. As the fish gets bigger, you don't want to eat too much of it. So salmon on occasion and other high fatty fish, those are good for you. Eggs are great. Eat the yolk. The yolk is the most important part of the egg. It's the healthiest part of the egg. I cringe when I see in the grocery store eat the egg whites, in a container. That's the least important part of the egg. Eat the yolks. Good quality meat products like beef. We're going to get into this on the next slide, but grass-fed. You really want to switch if you eat beef. Beef can be a health food as long as it comes from a good source. If you're buying conventional beef, has really bad fatty profile in it. And in particular, I'm talking about the omegas. So most people have heard of omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. Omega-3 fatty acids are anti-inflammatory because so much damage and there's so many health problems caused and contributed by inflammation. We want to try to get to the bottom of it. We don't want to cover up the inflammation by taking an anti-inflammatory. What we want to do is find out why our body's so inflamed and address that. Well, a lot of the inflammation comes from our nutrition. We eat way too many omega-6s, which are pro-inflammatory, and not nearly enough omega-3s, which are anti-inflammatory. So a lot of people know some omega-3 fatty fish has very high in omega-3, but beef can actually be a great source of omega-3 if it's grass-fed. If it's grain-fed, it gets very high in omega-6 fatty acids. Same as all of those oils, the bad oils I mentioned, very high in omega-6 fatty acids. So we want to try to eat a more natural animal product, if you will, and that's going to have much better nutritional profile for overall benefit of your health. So fix the fats. Number 3, the next one is perfect your proteins. So I just mentioned this, and really what I want to talk about for the proteins are your animal products. Animal products, very important to get these as natural as you possibly can, as unadulterated as you possibly can. Cows are made to eat grass. They're not made to eat grains, which is what most cows eat. And if there's a lot of bad things that happen in our food industry that you don't want to know about and that I don't want to talk about on this video. But in particular, what is fed to some of the animals that you can go to the grocery store and then get that animal after it's been slaughtered. Some of the things that they're fed is atrocious. They should be eating grass. Chickens, as much as possible, should be out free ranging, be eating bugs, eating what's on the ground, seeds, eating certain things that are very beneficial for it. And whenever they're eating what they're meant to eat, their tissues that, of course, we then eat are going to be very healthy for us, and we can eat it and it's going to be healthy for us, as opposed to if it's eating what it's not meant to eat, it causes damage in the animal, and then we eat the animal and it causes damage inside of us. So really important to try to switch those as much as possible to healthy sources. When it comes to dairy, you know, a lot of people avoid dairy, which I think is fine. There's no requirement for dairy, even for calcium. If somebody says, you know, low calcium, or they're osteoporotic, osteoporosis, or osteopenia, they're told to have more calcium, have more milk. You don't need to get your calcium from milk. There's better sources of calcium than milk. You can actually, almonds have a ton of calcium. Almond milk has more calcium in it than cow's milk does. Broccoli has a ton of calcium in it. Kale and spinach has a lot of calcium in it. So we don't need to go to milk. But if you do dairy, if you do consume dairy, make sure, again, it's from an organic, natural source. A couple of good companies. I already mentioned Kerrygold. Organic Valley is another great company that has some really good products in it as well. So perfect your proteins. And the last thing we're going to talk about here is trash the toxins. Trash the toxins. So I want to talk about a couple of things when I talk about what do I mean by toxins. The first thing we're going to talk about is organic, the word organic. Now, what organic means, it means that we're not using anything synthetic, or we're not interfering it with man-made substances in any way. So one, it's not genetically modified. If it's organic, it is not genetically modified, right? Which there are studies that show the damaging effects of genetic modification. But even if you just think of it on a logical perspective, give you an example of a food that's genetically modified. They take tomatoes, which do not do well in cold temperatures, and then they take a gene from a cold water fish, such as a sardine or a salmon, and they take that gene and they put it into the tomato so that the tomato can last longer in the cold. What effects is that going to have on our body whenever we consume it? Because whatever we put into our body, the foods we put in, become our tissue over time. So in my mind, that's going to have some sort of deleterious effect on us later on. Give me the tomato, give me the salmon. Don't put those things together, please. So avoid genetic modification foods at all costs, and when you buy organic, you will avoid that. Now, in addition, whenever it's organic, it doesn't have synthetic herbicides, pesticides, fungicides sprayed on the outside of these foods if it's produce. And all of those things are known to cause health problems. There's a chemical called glyphosate, which is Roundup. It's literally Roundup that you would spray on your weeds. That's what they're putting on our crops all across this country, this glyphosate. There was just a lawsuit won against the company who makes it for, I think it was over $2 billion, because of the damages that it had on this one family. $2 billion for one family lawsuit. And it's just a tremendous amount of our health problems are caused by these synthetic chemicals that we're consuming and that are getting stored in our body. So eating organic, we're not getting those chemicals. Now, when it comes to eating organic, the first thing that I actually recommend that we switch is not the produce, rather it's the animal products. Switch your animal products first to organic, grass-fed, as natural as you can, before worrying about your produce. And the reason for that is because the animals, what they're eating has a higher pesticide load on it. So let's take a cow for an example. A cow's eating grains that have a tremendous amount of pesticides sprayed on it. Then that's getting stored in the cow, as well as the antibiotics that they give it, the growth hormones, the vaccines, and all these things they put into that cow. And then you're eating the cow and you're getting all of those substances inside of you. Now, after switching all of your animal products to organic, natural, then let's talk about switching the produce to organic and natural. So the things that you want to switch first are things that are going to have the pesticides and the herbicides, all those chemicals sprayed on the outside of. So I mentioned earlier berries. When you're eating berries, there's no outer covering. You're eating what they picked. So the pesticides are being sprayed directly on the outside. It's one of the highest pesticide-loaded foods. So switch switch to organic berries. Same thing with apples and peaches and nectarines, right? The things that have an outer shell of some sort, like a banana, an avocado, an orange, you're safer to eat those things non-organic or conventional if you had to. Still best to switch to organic if you can. Now, a lot of people, when it comes to doing things organic and natural, we get into the conversation about, but it costs more. And I agree, it does, cost a little bit more. It's nowhere near where it used to be because there is such a high demand for these foods. But there's two approaches to that conversation that I have to have, or I like to have. One, you pay for your health now, or you pay for it later, right? And what I mean is you pay for it now in your food, in your gym membership, in the time and the energy that you take towards, being healthy, or you pay for it later in your hospital bills and treating symptoms, sickness, and disease. I would much rather pay for it now rather than paying for it in that way later on. So that's one approach. Yes, does it cost more? Is it an investment? It's an investment in your future, right? So that, now when it comes to organic, there's also that, I was just trying to think, where did my mind go? Buying organic, or learning how to buy organic, where to buy organic. It's a process that I'm not going to get into here, where we buy our foods, but you'll learn where to buy things, buying things in bulk as much as possible. Buying organic things frozen is going to be a lot more cost effective because they can produce it, freeze it right away, and then it has a long shelf life, obviously, if it's frozen. So there are good ways, easy ways to do it and have that benefit. Last thing I want to talk about with toxins is plastics. Trying to avoid plastics at all costs when it comes to our nutrition, and talk about drinks as well. So trying not to drink out of plastics. Don't buy foods that come in plastics, as much as possible. Not saying that, we need to be legalistic about this, but as much as possible to try to avoid plastics. And if you buy it in plastic, so be it, but try not to store things in plastic at your home. Let's say you just got done cooking dinner, you have leftovers, don't put it in a plastic Tupperware container and put it in your fridge. The reason being is that plastics leach over time and they'll get into your foods and then you'll eat the plastics. And those things, even if it's BPA free and it has all these great, they make it sound like it's not an issue, it's still plastic. The better way is to go towards using glass and stainless steel, because they're not going to have the chemicals getting into your body that's going to cause harmful effects later on. So last thing that I want to mention here, if you are a patient here in the office, you likely have this book called Align Your Health. There is a great chapter in this book on nutrition, goes over in depth a lot of the things that I kind of tiptoed on here. It also has a great recipe guide, has a shopping guide, so it's a great resource. So make sure to use that book to answer any questions you may have. Now, if you have any questions when it comes to nutrition, please let me know. Shoot me an email so that I can give you as good a response as I possibly can. And if I have to, I don't know everything, naturally. So if I need to research, then I'll do a little research. So it benefits not just you, but it benefits me. But if you have any questions, definitely please let me know. I hope that this video was useful, and I look forward to talking to you soon.